The Xiaomi 15 launched in India at 60,000 rupees, stepping straight into a war zone of near flagships from Vivo, Realme and Samsung. But the real curveball is Apple's iPhone 16e, a so-called budget iPhone that still demands a premium. Xiaomi is betting on sheer specs and Android flexibility, while Apple banks on ecosystem lock-in and long-term updates. One is a powerhouse and the other plays it safe. This choice isn't just about hardware, but it is also about how much you're willing to compromise. And hey, while you are making big decisions, here is an easy one. Subscribe to the channel. Now, both phones feel every bit as premium as you'd expect. Matte glass backs that reject fingerprints like they have trust issues, aluminium frames that scream "I belong to the flagship club," and just enough heft to make them feel premium. Apple sticks to its black and white color choices, while Xiaomi throws in a pastel green, because why not? Although I was sent the black variant, which feels a bit muted. The iPhone 16e is all about being sleek and lightweight, while the Xiaomi 15 has that solid tank-like feel. Apple also gives you last generation ceramic shield on this display, which is tough but not quite as tough as other iPhone 16 models. Xiaomi pulls the same move, skipping the upgraded shield glass from its top-tier lineup. For security and biometrics, the iPhone 16e comes with Face ID, which is reliable as ever. Xiaomi's in-display fingerprint scanner is snappy too, though the speed is mostly UI trickery. Both are also IP6 hit rated, so they will survive a coffee spill, and if you're clumsy, much worse. The Xiaomi 15 is a classic Android flagship, minimalist, premium, and no nonsense. The iPhone 16e, well, looks like any other iPhone. That is, until you look at the display. The first thing you notice is that massive notch, which instantly makes the iPhone 16e feel outdated. And because of this notch, you miss out on some of Dynamic Island's best features, such as tracking your Zomato order or tracking your Uber. But once you get past the notch, the rest of the display is actually solid. It is a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED panel, which is bright, vibrant, and incredibly sharp, and is great for viewing content. The Xiaomi 15's 6.36-inch LTPO display, though, is a whole other beast. The higher peak brightness means HDR content looks way better, and Xiaomi has all the certifications to back that up. The bezels on the Xiaomi 15 are much slimmer compared to the iPhone 16e, because of which it feels even more premium. But the biggest difference between the two is the refresh rate. The Xiaomi 15 dynamically adjusts up to 120Hz, which makes everything feel buttery smooth. Scrolling through web pages, app animations, gaming, it all feels silky smooth. The iPhone 16e on the other hand is stuck at 60Hz, and you feel that big time. You constantly get micro stutters when scrolling through text or even when navigating through the UI. So, while both displays are good image-wise, Xiaomi certainly takes the lead in terms of overall quality, responsiveness, and how enjoyable it feels to use overall. As for audio, both the Xiaomi 15 and iPhone 16e have stereo speakers which are loud, crisp, and surprisingly punchy with solid bass. Performance-wise, the Xiaomi 15 flexes its Snapdragon 8 Elite chip, while the iPhone 16e backs the A18, though Apple quietly snipped off a GPU core. But that is not as bad as it sounds. In Geekbench, the iPhone 16e still keeps up in single-core performance, but in multi-core, the Xiaomi pulls ahead. Graphics-heavy benchmarks like 3D Mark and Antutu tell the real story. Xiaomi's extra GPU muscle offers higher numbers, while the iPhone 16e lags behind thanks to that missing core. In real-world usage though, you probably won't notice the difference unless you're gunning Genshin at max settings. The bigger problem though is Apple's insistence on a 60Hz display. Even with iOS 18's animations, the iPhone 16e feels sluggish next to Xiaomi's 120Hz fluidity. When it comes to heavier tasks though, like 4K video recording or editing, both hold up well. They also manage heat pretty well despite very different cooling setups. On the software side, the Xiaomi 15 runs on HyperOS 2, while the iPhone 16e runs on iOS 18. As for updates, Xiaomi has promised 4 OS plus 6 security updates. With most iPhones, you are good for 7 to 8 years, although Apple has never admitted it officially. Now, HyperOS 2 is not exactly stock Android, but you will not find a ton of bloatware. Plus, it has its bag of AI tricks: AI writing, AI editing, AI search, AI dynamic wallpapers, and of course, Google's Circle to Search and Gemini. iOS 18 also brings some AI features under Apple Intelligence like visual intelligence, AI writing tools, object eraser, and image playground. But even though Apple is pushing the iPhone 16e as the gateway to Apple Intelligence, you should not buy the iPhone 16e just for that. Saying that Apple is having a rough time with its AI features would be an understatement. Just look at Siri. When it comes to cameras, the Xiaomi 15 packs a triple 50-megapixel Leica-tuned setup, while the iPhone 16e gets a 48-megapixel fusion sensor. It is not the same one as the iPhone 16 or iPhone 16 Plus. It is a smaller sensor, which means images and videos are a little noisier, especially in low light. In daylight, both phones take fantastic shots. The iPhone 16e has a better dynamic range, so it shows more detail in shadows. The Xiaomi, on the other hand, is more contrasty and has punchier colors. When you zoom in 2x, the iPhone switches from 24 megapixels to 12 megapixels and loses some detail. The Xiaomi though stays rock solid. I feel the Xiaomi is at its strongest at 2.6x with creamier bokeh and superb details. We get to see similar results in video as well. As for stabilization, the Xiaomi 15 is excellent and holds up well in most scenarios. The iPhone 16e does a decent job, but it's nowhere near to the iPhone 16 or 16 Pro Max. That's because Apple stuck with the standard lens-based OIS rather than sensor shift on the 16e. In portraits, both the devices handle edge detection well. At the front, the iPhone 16e gets a 12-megapixel camera, whereas the Xiaomi 16 gets a 32-megapixel camera with fixed focus. However, both of them do a pretty decent job with both photos and videos. All in all, you're better off with the Xiaomi 15 as a whole. It's got a better macro and telephoto setup and an ultra-wide lens, all with pretty solid sensors. Plus, the Xiaomi 15 packs pro-level video features like 10-bit log recording, Dolby Vision, and a dedicated movie mode. Battery life is surprisingly solid on both. The Xiaomi 15 and iPhone 16e push through 7 to 8 hours of screen time, even with the iPhone's smaller battery. That's probably down to that 60Hz display and the new C1 modem sipping power instead of guzzling it. Charging though is where Xiaomi takes the lead. A 90-watt charger in the box? Yes, in 2025 that is a flex. Gets you from 0 to 100% in under an hour. It even does 50 watts wireless and 10 watts reverse wireless. Meanwhile, the iPhone's 20-watt wired charging means you'll be sitting around for nearly 2 hours, and you better already own a charger because Apple sure is not giving you one. Okay, going into this review, I kind of knew that Xiaomi 15 would win, but even I am surprised by how one-sided this turned out to be. The Xiaomi 15 is an absolute beast with great cameras, solid performance, and impressive battery life, easily one of the best compact flagships out there. The only reason to pick the iPhone 16e would be iOS 18 and Apple Intelligence, but even that is not enough. If you have to have an iPhone, there are far better options out there, especially if you are willing to stretch your budget or wait for seasonal discounts.